And now, in this moment, at this time, I invite each and every one of you to just allow yourself to be washed away by the divine. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice deep cleansing breath in, breathing in the cool, calming oxygen that surrounds you. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Allow your body to just relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me. I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This could be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in this room or on this planet anymore. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
I hope you had a wonderful week. And I'm knowing you're going to have an even better one. So, working this month, you're dark out there. Wow. Okay. It's bright up here. Working this month on a metaphor of water. We love metaphors. Everything's a metaphor. And we are made of water. We live on a water planet. Did you see that the man, I believe his name was Alan, just passed? He was the... No, I think Alan was his last name. He was, but yeah, he was the astronaut on Apollo 8 who took the Earthrise photo. That was the precursor to this one. This was, I think, Apollo 10, where they took the full shot of the Earth, but the first one, Earthrise, where it's coming up above the surface of the moon, and gave rise to the idea of the blue marble that hangs suspended in space. This is our Earth, made of water. Principally, 78% of the Earth's surface is water. Some comparable percentage larger than that of the bodies we wear, made of water. The moon affects the tides. It affects the human experience. It draws the gravitational fields to and fro. And water, metaphysically, represents the subconscious mind. Represents the subconscious mind. Throughout all the world's sacred scriptures, it alludes to this in some way or another. Out of the water comes mystery, comes the unknown, creation. Creation is a double-edged sword for us, that on the one hand we wish for change, and on the other hand we prefer the familiar. So we live in this strange place of the unknown. We worry about the unknown, and yet, as I've often said, it's out of the unknown that everything that we cherish has come. So a few weeks ago, I excited some comment when I made the observation in a talk that the divine nature is fully present everywhere simultaneously, fully present at every point within itself simultaneously. And a couple of people were kind enough to email me and say, whoa. That's exactly, whoa. How could it be otherwise? So what I want to propose to you, let's take this thing logically. So, you know, a lot of times the divine nature, God, the divine nature is an abstraction to us. We say, well, it's all powerful and it's all this and it's worthy of worship and so on. But what exactly does it do? And how does it get that way? How does it be what it is in our lives? So I think we take it logically. If there is such a thing as a God, and I firmly believe there is, but what you believe is entirely up to you. But let's just agree that if there is such a thing, if there is a divine nature and it's almighty and it's everlasting and it's timeless and it's endless and it's deathless and it's changeless, although it contains the potentials for all these things within itself, then it's got to be pretty much everywhere. If it's unopposed, and I think that any God that's worth believing in is unopposed, right? It's not arm wrestling with some competing power. It is really all there is. If that's true, then it must be infinite. And if it's infinite, anything infinite has to follow the laws of infinity, has to follow logically the principles of being something that's infinite. What does infinite mean? Not finite. No ending, no limitation. Never runs out of gas, never runs out of steam, wherever it is. Therefore, it encompasses everything. And it does this, it encompasses everything all at the same time. It doesn't run over here and encompass this and then drop that and run over here and encompass that thing and keep dashing around doing what it does, but it's doing it all at once. So it's not like when you pray, God is, whoa, and it's like listening. I'm saying whoa a lot today. It's listening to you and okay, got it. Now, listen, you're going on a little long. I really have to go because somebody over here on this other continent needs something. No, it's taking all of this information and it's taking it all simultaneously. It's living fully at every present within itself. And because it's infinite, we can't really wrap our minds around this because our cognitive conceptualization, all right, our perspective is not in itself infinite. Because we don't think everything there is to think all at once. We think serially. We speak serially. Select our words, make our point, move on. We deal with life step by step, moment by moment. Because we're coming at it on this plane from very much a finite level. So when the concept of something infinite is presented to us, we have nowhere to put it. We have nothing to relate it to, and so much of our understanding is by relating one thing to another. There's a big cricket tournament going on right now, and the U.S. cricket team rose to the occasion and defeated the far superior team of Pakistan, where cricket is a much bigger deal than here. And the easiest way to understand cricket, which is not easy to understand, it is an extremely complicated game. But the easiest way for people like you and me to understand it is to say, well, it's sort of like baseball. Because baseball grew out of cricket. It's a streamlined version of cricket. You have somebody who pitches and somebody who bats, and you get the idea. So everything is pretty much some representation of something else at the finite level, and this is how we understand things. Have you met my friend Joe? No, I don't know your friend Joe. Well, do you know my friend Frank? Well, Joe's pretty much like Frank. Oh, okay, well then, right? And so it is, right? And do you speak a certain language? Well, it's pretty much like another language, and one song is pretty much like another song, but not so much like this one over here. But then when you're talking about an infinite reality, there's absolutely nothing beside it. Not only is it unopposed, it's incomparable. All you can do is lose yourself in it. Danielle, in the opening this morning, before she got into the inner healing experience, she said something about washed away by spirit. And that doesn't mean like, lost forever. It means overwhelmed, overcome by something, overcome by a feeling, overcome by a presence. And so the mystics have taught, and the founders of all the world's religions have taught, if you want to have an experience of God, you got to give up everything else. They used the expression death. You must die to be born again. And people went, what? Whoa. But I don't want to. It's a metaphor. It doesn't mean you're extinguished out like a light. It doesn't mean oblivion. It means everything that was meaningful is now seen in a new perspective, seen in a new light, or as the Buddhists often put it, to give up your attachments, to die to your attachments. Attachments how? Attachments of meaning. We attach meaning to comparable states, limited states. Look at how we say in society that people who, money walks and something else, money talks and something else walks, right? Right? That there's a standard of status, a standard of power, a standard of wealth, and so on, that defines you, your place of birth, your ethnicity, your religious background. All of this defines you, your career, what you do, white collar, blue collar, no collar, it's right. Give all that up. Give all that up. And what's left? Pure beingness. It's a Buddhist ideal. It's largely an Eastern ideal. Comes out of a society that's not as competitive, or competitive in a different way than typical Western capitalist society. But wherever you are, you want to have the experience of the deity, you got to surrender yourself to it. You want to have experience of the ocean, you got to dive in the ocean. We can describe the ocean to one another. Say it's like this: it's salty, it's buoyant, it's vast, and none of that will make nearly as much difference as just getting into the thing. And then you have this experience. And you walk along the bottom until you get out to the place where the bottom falls away a little bit, and then you're floating, and then you're swimming, And swimming is about surrender. Riding a bicycle is about surrender, giving up the balance, giving up what you think you need, giving up the dry land, if you will. So in Scripture, when it talks about the sea bordered by the dry land, and maybe the Red Sea comes to mind, and the dry land that appears, well, as the waters part, what it's talking about, the dry land being, metaphysically, is the conscious cognitive perspective. And what the vast sea is the unconscious or subconscious reality out of which the dry land emerges. Well, you and I are overly familiar with the dry land, which is why I decided not to give a series of talks this month on it. We're very familiar with terra firma. We're not so familiar with this field of play called the subconscious. And I aim to have us be, because in it is our redemption. In it is our life, our eternity. It comes in waves, and the waves operate as tides that flow in and out, and what these represent are the waves of emotion, the waves of feeling. Now, emotion is very important in metaphysical work. It's like maybe the most important thing at all. We say, well, God's, but yeah, okay, God, but as the abstraction that God sometimes is, God is functionally not as critical in the conversation as is our own feelings, because our feelings are what we live with. They are our experience of things. And I often ask myself and ask others, what kind of a day are you having today? And to answer that question, where do you look? You don't look at your money. You don't look at your status. You don't look at your power. You don't look at your ethnicity or your language or your religion or any of the rest of this. No, you look at how you feel about yourself. You look at how you feel about yourself. And only you know how that is. That's the ocean that you've climbed into. That's the experience that you're having of your life, is how you feel about yourself today. And other people, we've been over this many times, other people can try to coach you out of that, and they say, if I were you, I'd feel better about myself than you seem to. You know, because you seem to have it going on, but you don't know that. Well, that's nice of them to point that out, and pretty much useless, because, you know, because we're going to feel how we feel. We're going to feel how we feel. And we get into this. I'll give you an example of this. You know how at holidays everybody's like, hey, it's the greatest time of the year. Don't you feel wonderful? And you're like, no, I miss somebody who isn't here. I miss the me that I once was. I got this email the other day. You get on these lists, right? And they send you, because I use these things, they send you quotes about everything that's going on. And so I've been inundated with Father's Day quotes, Juneteenth quotes, and Pride Month quotes, and most recently, summer quotes. These were like the 50 greatest quotes about summer. And I, wanting to bring you the very best of what I possibly can, thought, well, let me read through these and see if something fits where I'm going with the talk this month. And every one of these quotes was like, oh, summer, it's the most wonderful time of year, and it's just the beautiful weather and the beautiful light and all of this. And I'm reading through these and reading through these, and we wait for summer all year long, and I'm reading through these. And I'm thinking, whoever wrote these things must live in Scotland. Because where I live, okay, so it's not all universally applicable across the board that somebody should have the same experience as somebody else. We long in this part of the world for fall. We count down the days till maybe the third week of October when the temperature begins to moderate and the winds turn to the north, right? And so it all depends. It all depends. And that's not even taking into account the hemispheric difference that right now in the southern hemisphere, it's coming on winter. So the experience is everything. And the emotion is what determines the experience, the quality of emotion, the content of emotion. Now, I have this theory, and it's complicated and far too long to go over with you today, but some of you have heard it in classes, that emotion forms a reservoir. It is the ocean, basically, and it is in itself neutral. The style it takes on is dependent on the type of thought that's placed into it. The style it takes is dependent upon the quality of the toe that's dipped into it. So I take this neutral energy and I put it around thoughts of attraction and completion and involvement, and I call it love. And I take this emotion and I place it around thoughts of distance and opposition and conflict, and I call it hate, or I call it anger, or I call it joy, or I call it, and so we step back from it onto the dry land. We step back from the feeling itself that we're having so as to get a perspective on it, so as to label it. And then we can share the labeling with one another and say, oh, I understand this. I understand this. I understand what you're going through. But we never really understand what anybody else is going through. All there are comps. C-O-M-P-S, right? All there are comps. Oh, you're grieving? Well, I've grieved, so, you know, you must be doing kind of what I did. Yeah, yes and no. Yes and no. All there is in the final analysis is individual direct experience. Individual direct unmediated experience of life. So we go to the vast subconscious mind and we become willing to feel. And if we're not willing to feel, we get to wait. We get to wait until we are willing to feel. And sadly, in metaphysical study, there are people who have been doing metaphysical study for decades who have walked right up to the edge of the waves, where the water, you know how on the beach the water comes in, this fine little rivulets, right, comes right up to where you are. Big crashing wave plays all the way down to just this little bitty bit of water, little trickle of water comes right up to your toes, and then it goes on back out. And there's some of us, and I'm right there with you, there's some of us who've said, oh, look, I could follow that, but no, I like where I stand. I like where I stand. I stand here, and it doesn't change, and nothing changes, and nothing really improves, you know. But at least I'm firmly rooted in this sand, and nothing's going to knock me over. But wouldn't it be wonderful? Wouldn't it be wonderful to be out there? Wouldn't it be wonderful to be out there in the great mystery? You know, they say on the planet, the great undiscovered country of our planet is what's beneath the ocean. And with our modern technology, increasingly that you're seeing pictures come up of species of living things from unimaginable depths of the ocean that have never seen the light of day, that have never come up in the fishing nets or anything else. And it's like, wow, what's down there and what's beneath the ocean floor? And not just stuff humans have dropped either, you know, not just buried treasure and that, but there's the essence of life. And they find these primeval things that have not hardly evolved, it seems, in countless eons. We all came from that floor originally. We were all the archaea. We were all the little critters, monocell critters that hovered around the geothermal vents on the ocean floor before we began. I believe in evolution too, by the way. And to me, the God of my understanding works through evolution, works with evolution. Everything is evolving, and we're evolving from the point where we are now forward. Okay? Well, just as all the great mysteries of life physically can be found on Earth, can be found within and around the ocean, so can all the mysteries of destiny be found in and around the metaphorical ocean of the subconscious mind. That's why we dive into it. There is a, mixing metaphors just briefly here, there's a little thing I heard years and years and years ago, and it's come back around in various forms, and it goes like this. It says, come to the edge. Come to the edge, they said. I said, I can't go to the edge. It's scary out there. I've never been to. Come to the edge, they said. No, I don't trust myself. I don't trust the balance and the edge, and there's such a long fall. Come to the edge, they implored me. So I came to the edge, and I stood at the edge, and they pushed me, and I flew. And I flew. See? So come to the edge of the water. Come to the edge. Oh, I don't know how to swim. I get water up my nose, very unpleasant feeling. I get water in my ears. My ears will pop, you know? Or I had a hot dog within the last hour. So I'll sink like a stone and die forever because this is what happens, right? Come to the edge. Come to the edge. Seriously, come to the edge of the great unexplored country. What Shakespeare called, he wasn't referring to the ocean, he was referring to the passage of time and mortality. So that undiscovered country from whose bourne, B-O-U-R-N-E, from whose border no traveler returns. Come to that undiscovered country of the great self, the great I am, and dive in. And just as when they push you off the cliff, you fly. You dive in, you swim, you float. And you can backstroke and front stroke, and you can, right? And it's your element. And it mingles with your blood, which is more like seawater than it isn't. And you recognize that you're in your element, and you're in the womb. You're in the womb to be reborn. To be reborn as the spiritual being that you are. Liberated forever from the tyranny of death. Liberated forever from false attachments of meaning, and one with all that is. Now, in the weeks to come, we're going to talk more about this, and the oceans and the rivers and the waterfalls and the fountains and really all the bodies of water on the planet are metaphors in their own way of this subconscious getting to you. But here's what I want to leave you with for today is by way of sort of an assignment. I've kind of gotten into this lately, of assignments, and with the understanding you don't have to do them and nobody's grading them, and you know, everything that you've ever heard about assignments is thrown out the window here. Just think about this. This subconscious mind, this infinite deity that's everywhere present, isn't just waiting for you to call upon it. Though you can. You can call upon, quote unquote, the name of the Lord. You can call it, why? Because it's everywhere present, all at once. And so what you need, it's right there. And it knows your needs before you articulate them. Why? Because it's all there is. So it's in your mind, and it's in your body, and it's in your presence completely. It is responsive. It is responsive. But it's not only responsive, it's proactive. It's proactive. It's not just waiting to hear from you what it is you want, or waiting for some want to be formulated in your consciousness. It is a patterning intelligence whose primary goal is to facilitate its own beingness. God's primary goal is not to sweep up after us. God's primary goal is to facilitate its own godness, to keep everything going, keep everything evolving, keep every idea it has continually manifesting in form in some way. For this, it needs particularized beings who have emerged from it like us. Therefore, it's dropping hints constantly of what you and I can do to further evolve and to help the evolution of one another and of all species and all life everywhere. Therefore, in the week to come, it's dropping specific hints for you that are different than the specific hints for the person sitting next to you or anybody else who's ever lived. The assignment this week is to watch for those, to see how they come to you. They may come in a dream state, they may come through an overheard conversation, they may come on the radio or words to a song, or they may come, who knows? Your dog or cat may tell them to you. You just don't know. The bird singing outside your window, the job this week is to pay attention to that, to pay attention to that. What is life telling me more about my ability to feel, my ability to experience, my ability to unconditionally love, and thereby to facilitate, assist the evolution of all life everywhere. So let's know together now. One life, one power, one presence. We've already determined that it's everywhere all at once, having a full experience of itself by means of absolutely everything everywhere, not only in the world of form but also in the realm of potential. Now that I know this, I unify myself with it. I realize that this word I speak is an affirmation of this happening. It's not a denial of it. It's not a refusal of it. No, it's an affirmation of it. So in describing the ubiquity of spirit, I now choose to live like it's so. And to see that everywhere I turn, everywhere I listen, everywhere I watch, infinite spirit is revealing to me and through me that which I need to know to be more fully who I am, and to let go of every possible limitation or attachment that holds me back. Any definition of myself that's outworn, any old story that hangs like an albatross around my neck, I'm able to release this, and I'm assisted in releasing it by a power that's never held anything against me. That being infinite can do absolutely everything, but one thing it cannot do is stop being what it is. It can't stop being what it is long enough to judge itself. So any judgment that has taken place has happened at the local, personal level, the inductive level, the perspective level, the comparative level. A level that I now choose to evolve beyond. So I stand in the light of this beautiful new day, like a sunrise over the ocean, filled with gratitude for all that is, all that has been, and all that shall be. For this knowing and its manifestation in form. Everywhere I turn, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
You know, the other one is too high in the sky. Yeah, well, it's probably cold up there, you know. I keep meaning to ask this question every week. Reverend Jesse, what is a metaphor? For Juneteenth, Tamina, which is our freedmen's community, which is right opposite Research Forest and the Woodlands. If you're going up 45, left is Research Forest into the Woodlands, right takes you into Tamina. It's a freedmen's town, and they're having a big event, which is on June 19th. It's from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., and there's information there on how to find out more information. And the lady organizing is Rita Welts, and she's actually well known. And Danielle, I almost said Reverend Danielle Mercadal, one of our practitioners, works closely with her, and she's also a member of the Woodlands Chamber of Commerce, so I see her there as well. Everything else.
You can drop in and out. Don't stay for the whole time. It's an in and out kind of thing.
Yes. So please visit them. Please support them. They've recently actually Rita was recently in the Smithsonian, and I forgot what she was doing there, but it was connected with Tamina Freedman's Town.
It's the ground on which we stand.
The ground on which we stand, and her ancestors go back right to the beginnings of the Freedman's Town in the 19th century. So as we come up to giving time, I just remind you that, you know, we have stuff going on every single day of the week, and we are here to support you. It takes money to support you, and we appreciate all that you give to us, and we just encourage you to please continue doing that so we can continue to put these positive messages out into the world and help the world become a better place. So I almost forgot this last week. They reminded me in the front row. So as Anne makes her way to the back and is going to be our usher today, please say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. Oh, and by the way, it was William Anders who took the picture.
And I was, as I was listening to Jesse talking about, they pushed you over the edge. All I can think of is what Douglas Adams says. If you don't know who Douglas Adams is, he wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and a few other books that go along with that. But he says that flying is just falling in style. So think about that for a minute. Even if you're falling, you can still fly. You got time. You just have to miss. That's all. That's all we're asking you to do. So in that vein, flying is just falling in style. I'm going to invite you to consciously enter the sacred with me. It is always sacred. It is all sacred. If the divine is present in every moment is sacred. As my friend Terry likes to say, it is always a holy moment. It is our consciousness that makes it so. So consciously enter into the sacred with me. Walk right up to the edge and let the water lap over your toes. And realize it's not so cold. It's not so bad. And it's an invitation to step further in. And you do. You step up into your ankles. And you feel the waves caress your ankle, inviting you further in. You come up into the waters up to your thighs. And here's where it starts to tug on you a little bit, inviting you deeper in, promising you that it will hold you, that you will float. So you come a little further in, and you let your feet leave the bottom. You just lean back into that sacred, and you stretch your arms out, and you trust. And you know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And it is that love that enfolds us, that holds us, that allows us to float, that promises that whatever it is that we are going through in this moment, we are not alone. That we are held in a sacred trust with every other being, knowing that it is a moment, and the moment will pass. And it'll be okay. In this sacred moment, in this moment as we are held in the divine, I speak my word now for every living being. You are loved. You are cherished. You are cared for. You are a beloved expression of the divine. And that which you are seeking is seeking you. Ever since Joy heard your name, it has been running through the streets and calling your name. This is our sacred trust, to know who we are and to know that we will always find our wings. And I relax into this knowing with all of the gratitude in my being. I am grateful for a teaching that teaches me who I am. I am grateful for a community where we come together to remind each other of this fact, of this truth, of this sacredness. I am grateful for our ministers, our practitioners, our musicians. I am grateful for each and every one of you. I am grateful for the technology that lets us send this out into the ethers. And I am grateful because it is just another word for love. And I relax into this knowing, releasing my word into the law with love. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
And so it is.
And so it is.